Will the Bengals add a piece to their secondary before the 2022 NFL Draft? Hi again, everybody. I'm James Rapien of allbengals.com and Cincinnati Bengals Talk, and I think the answer is yes. I think the Bengals are going to add a veteran over the next few weeks. Maybe they hold off until after the draft. But you look at the Bengals secondary, they like having depth at the cornerback position. And right now, well, they don't have a ton of it. Eli Apple a year ago was their fourth corner, was going to battle Darius Phillips for that fourth cornerback spot. And obviously he won it and then exceeded expectations. And then Trey Waynes was a bust. And guess what? He was able to move into that second outside cornerback role and start 15 games. So he exceeded expectations. That being said, the Bengals might try to find that diamond in the rough again and try to find another guy that can fortify the cornerback room. And I would not be shocked at all if they do that. And so when you look at who's left, there's a lot of big names available. I'll get one out of the way first, and it's not a cornerback. Tyrann Mathieu visiting the Saints today. Never really thought that was realistic. But yeah, there was a little buzz around that after he praised Joe Burrow. Never really bought into that idea a ton. Love Honey Badger's game, but it looks like he might be signing with his hometown New Orleans Saints. Naturally, when we talk about free agent cornerback, Stephon Gilmore is going to come up and come up and come up. And of course, makes a ton of sense. If you're looking for this lockdown type corner, assuming the Bengals still think he has that type of ability, but I don't think they want to commit long-term money to any of these veterans that are still available. And it makes sense for a bunch of reasons, right? From Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jesse Bates and the guys that you're going to commit money to over the next year or two. And not just that, but if you pay Stephon Gilmore, it kind of gets in the way of what you would do at 31. And I don't think the Bengals want to do that, but I think they want to supplement what they do in the first round of the draft, the second round of the draft, the third round of the draft. Because right now, a lot of you focused on corner, right? You're focused on cornerback, and I understand it. You look at the overall needs on the team, and it's like, man, the cornerback depth just is not at a comfortable spot right now. And that's why if you can find a veteran that doesn't prevent you necessarily from taking a cornerback 31st overall, and I think Gilmore would, because you're talking big money, and I just think it's unrealistic. But a one-year type deal with proven veterans that, yeah, could help if you need them to this year, but aren't going to get in the way of the 31st overall pick if you decide to take a corner. That could help the 63rd overall pick if you go that route, or whatever the case may be. So that being said, Gilmore, I think that's unlikely. But there are some guys that I think the Bengals should at least be interested in. And we'll start with probably the biggest name, at least in Ohio, Joe Haden. Joe Haden is a guy that spent the first 7 years of his career in Cleveland, the past 5 years in Pittsburgh. He's going to be 33 years old. I understand it, 33 years old on April 14th, I believe it is, day before tax day. So get your taxes done, Joe Haden. That being said, he's a former Pro Bowler. He's a former first rounder for a reason, and I still think he's got some juice left. Would he be willing to sign a one-year deal? Because that's kind of what fits what the Bengals are looking for. They're going to take a corner. It might not be 31st overall, and that's why you want to add another piece here, whether it's a Joe Haden. Steven Nelson's a guy I've talked about a lot, 29 years old. He might be looking for a multi-year deal, so it could be tougher. But if not, one-year deal, sign me up on that. Xavier Rhodes, another guy that could be on a one-year deal, much like Haden on the wrong side of 30, former all-pro, Pro Bowler type guy. That being said, with these three, I would say Steven Nelson, if you gave him a 2-year deal, maybe that works for both sides. Rhodes and Haden are definitely one-year contract candidates. A.J. Bouye visited the Bengals last year. Maybe he's a guy that the Bengals would be interested in. Had a pretty good season in Carolina, kind of a bounce-back year. Former Pro Bowler is someone to keep an eye on, as is Kyle Fuller. I think Kyle Fuller fits the bill as well. One-year type guys that could try to resurrect their career. If I'm a free agent cornerback, I look at the other cornerbacks that have come to town, and outside of Trey Waynes, everybody's worked. From Eli Apple to Mike Hilton. Even Mackenzie Alexander was okay a few years ago. Not great, it was one and done. But Mike Hilton, Chidobe Awuzie is obviously the blueprint there. So to me, there are options. Janoris Jackrabbit Jenkins, I think, is extremely unrealistic. He's out there as well, so I figured I'll throw his name out. Point being, the Bengals, and some of you might say, well, why wouldn't they just wait till after the draft? And if they don't get a cornerback, then they can add one of these guys. And maybe they do that. But the thing is a lot of teams are probably waiting. And if you're the Bengals and you're drafting 31st overall, the beauty of signing a La'el Collins and an Alex Kapp and a Ted Karras is it opens up the board. You don't have to. You're not forced to take an offensive lineman at 31. I still think they should consider it, and I went on a rant last week, if you missed it, and talked about that right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. That being said, do the same with cornerback. Because, yeah, you have Mike Hilton, you have Eli Apple, you have Chidobe Awuzie, and then what's after that? You haven't re-signed Trey Flowers, who's a guy, by the way, fits into this mold. He's just not an outside free agent candidate. But yeah, maybe they just bring back a Trey Flowers and add that way because he did play big for them at times. But the point is bringing back a guy like that or adding one of these free agents that I've mentioned, whether it's a Fuller or a Bouye or Joe Haden or insert Xavier Rhodes, it opens up your draft board. And that's all I want. Because if Kaiir Elam isn't there, and Andrew Booth isn't there, Derek Stingley sure as hell isn't going to be there. I know some of you keep saying, trade up for Sauce Gardner. That sure as hell isn't going to happen. So if none of those things happen, well then, what are you going to take Kyler Gordon at 31? Are you going to move back and take Kyler Gordon? Okay. Is he a day one starter? Are you going to move back and take one of these other corners? Are they day one starters? And if not, well, then should you take them anyway? Because to me, if I'm the Bengals, I'm hoping for someone that could instantly have an impact. And at 31, it's a little harder, but it's not impossible. I think Tyler Linderbaum would do that. I think Kenyon Green would do that. I think Kaiir Elam would do that. I think Andrew Booth would do that. I think Zion Johnson could do that. So there's 5 guys, and that's kind of the big 5. And then after that, it gets harder, and it gets more challenging. And all you need is one of those guys to be there. And so you can insulate yourself. You can buy insurance, so to speak, for your secondary by adding one of these guys. Who would you add? Is it as simple as bringing back what you had last year? Is it as simple as going and getting a veteran like Joe Haden, or do you just bring back Trey Flowers and you feel good about it? It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. I do think the Bengals are going to add a cornerback. It would make sense to me before the draft. Again, 1-year deal. I'm not talking Gilmore. I'm not even really talking Steven Nelson because to me, if they were in on Steven Nelson by now, like on a multi-year deal where he could be the fix, the answer, I think they would have already been in on him and already made a play. And so unless he's willing to take a 1-year deal where, again, these are Band-Aid type solutions that help you get from point A to point B. And that doesn't mean that you don't draft one at 31. It means you don't have to draft one at 31. For more, make sure you hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and buckle up because draft coverage is just getting started. We're going to do a live show in a bit, hopefully this week. If not, soon enough. Working on some guests as well. So subscribe, ring the bell, and to fill in all the cracks, get all the details, make sure you check out allbengals.com. For our channel coordinator, Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien, signing off for now right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.